Okay guys, let's get started by starting up our XAMPP. So start our XAMPP control panel, start up Apache, MySQL, and minimize that. Let's now have a look at the localhost /tutorial/user-verification/signup.php. So this is pretty much where we ended our last video. We had a login page, a sign up page, and an index page. Okay, just want to do some styling here before we really get started into it and fix this up so that it looks something like that. So let's go into the index.php and let's add some classes to this logout aref. So let's start with PTA. So let's start with centering the text. Then make it a button large, button dash block, and button primary to make it blue. TN dash button primary to make it blue. Okay, let's have a look and see what we've got. It's cool. That's about the size of it. I actually ended up styling this logout, and you can add this in. Dot logout, margin dash bottom, 25 pixels. That gave you a bit of space between that and this. Okay, that looks a little better. Probably be alright with 20 pixels, but just leave it as it is. You can play around that yourself. Okay, let's get back into coding. So I'm just going to remind you that when someone hits that sign up button, go to sign up again. Someone hits that sign up button, our code is going to post the detail, which includes the username, email, password conf. It's going to post it back to this page. The form action comes back to the sign up page. So we need to we're going to start sending detail into our PHP controller. Okay. Let me see how easy to copy it from somewhere. So this line here, PHP require once controllers /auth controller.php. We're going to need that also in our login. We're going to request that information here also, because when we post it from here, be your login.php. All this data here, username, password, will be posted into that controller. Okay, so I think at this stage we're going to create the tables of the database. So let's do that, and come back to this afterwards. So we need to go to the localhost /PHP my admin. Okay, we want to get access to the database. Okay, so we want to create a new database. You haven't got one yet. Go to new database. We're going to call it user verification. That's spelling right. Just make this a bit bigger. User verification. Leave your collation as it is, and we'll click create. Cool. We want to create a users table, and it's needing 6 columns. Alright. We're going to store in information such as the ID, the email, whether they've been verified, and we'll store a token, email token for verification, and also the password. So let's go. So let's start with the ID. It's going to be 11. Let's use the username. It's going to be 100. And actually that ID is going to be, I'm going to make this smaller, auto increment. Alright, we won't worry about that at the moment. And then we'll have email here. Username is going to be variable character, sorry. And the email is going to be variable character 200. And it's going to be unique. Don't worry about filling out this form, just hit go. And then verified. And that's going to be a tiny int. It's going to act like a 0 or 1. 0 is for false, and 1 is it's verified for true. And our next one is token. That's going to be variable character, and that's going to be of length 100. And finally our password, and that's going to be Barker and 255 long. Okay, I'll just leave that in front of you for a little while so you can get that all in, or you can pause if you want. That'll be cool. Alright, now I need to save that definition. Cool. So we've created our database to store the ID, username, email, verified, token, and password. Very good. Okay. Let's start coding our database requirements. Okay, so let's create a folder here called config. This is where we're going to store the information about our database, how we're going to connect to it. Let's now create a PHP file called db.php. Start PHP. We want to connect actually easier to do this way. So we're going to create some variables to store the information that we require when we connect to the database. So we need to know where it's being hosted, and at the moment that's the local host. We need to know who the user is, and that's the user is root, and the password is, there's no password, and the name of the database, we called it user-verification. So let's define those here. Okay. So we need to define the database, so the host, which is localhost, DB database user, which is root. Remember, we used this when we created the WordPress one too. Same database. We're looking at database manager. Database password is null, and which we found out at the WordPress install also. But the name of our database is user-verification. Okay. Now we don't want to store this information in this particular file, but we need it here. So I'm going to create a file called constants. Constants.php. And I'm going to copy that, cut that information from the database here, and place it in my constants.php. There we go. So, because this is of a sensitive nature, we will not share this information if we copied our database across. All right. So we need those constants, so we use the require statement. So require that constants.php. We need to have this information available to us in this connection file. Now, if the connection fails, we're going to disconnect ourselves and send up an error. Okay. So if the connection has a error, or for whatever description, we'll send out an error message and use the die function. Okay, let's now go to the signup.php, and we've got that in there. It's looking good. Okay. Let's start now with our control. We need to have our controller. We're calling a controller here. Let's create a folder called controllers. Let's create a file, a new file called auth, A-U-T-H, controller.php. Start our PHP. Okay. Now, first thing we want to do is, if we do want to connect to the database, we need to have db php Okay, so that's to start with. The first thing we want to do now, if the user clicks the sign up button, so the user clicks the sign up button, we're going to pass the information from the sign up page, pass it through into this controller. It'll come into our auth controller here. Alright, so we just say if the sign up button is pressed, we're going to pass the information, the username, email, the password, and the password conf. We have that. The username, the email, the password, and the password conf. We're going to pass them into this here, and we're going to store them into local variables. And they're actually going to be global variables. Okay, so let's do it this way. Start with the username first, then the email, okay, then the password, looking good so far, then the password confirmed. Password confirm. All right. We'll now start validating the data that's being sent to us, or not. We're validating the form pretty much, and so here is the validation for the form. So the first thing we want to do is to check if the username is empty. We'll check if the username is empty. We'll check if the email is empty. We'll then check if the email is valid. We'll check if the password is empty. We'll check if the password conf is empty, and if it does not match. So, okay. Let's go back to that. So here we have it. Checking to see if the username is empty, whether the email is empty, whether the email is a valid email, using PHP validate email or filter var function. Checking if the password is empty, and checking if the password conf does not match the password. All right, so we're creating an errors array, and we'll just place that errors array up here, which will be globally available. Okay, and while I'm here, I'll add username and email. Okay, you know how when you they were going to be empty. Sometimes when you type in forms and you put in the wrong password and you don't want to retype data, well, this is what this is all about here. In the form here, we type something in this form and we hit the sign up button. We want that to stay there, and the email too. Password can disappear. That's not what we want, but those two there save us some typing. All right. Let's get back there, and we can add this, do that, get that functionality inside the sign up and the login by adding the value into the label, into the input. So do that by adding the value into here, into the label. So this is, sorry, we'll do it here first. Okay, the user value is equal to, and there's the PHP code. That'll pass it through here, through the controller. There's the PHP code here for the username, so that'll stay there, it'll stick. Call them sticky. And then also the email. Okay. That email. Oops. So that should be fine. Okay. Let's now go back to our auth controller and continue with our validation, etc. So if we've checked all this, at this point we are going to check if the email appears in the database. Okay, because we want the emails to be unique. So this line here, we'll check the database. And look in the users table and look up the email to see if there is an occurrence, a duplicate. All right. And then, just to save time, I'm going to copy all this in. Okay, we're running off prepared statements. That's signified by this question mark here. No big deal though. Well, what we're doing here is checking that the email does it, and if it finds one, then it'll close that statement, and at this point I'm going to use this if statement to see if it finds one. If it does find one, we'll just say that the email already exists. All right. So we're going along real good here. Now we're at the point where we're going to start inputting data. Putting the data, saving the data into the table. Now that we're going to check to see if there are any errors at all. If they exactly equal to 0, then we're going to hash the password, which is a PHP function. We're going to create a token, which is a random bytes of 50, but that's going to be 100 long. And then it's going to be make the verified false, because we haven't yet sent the token out to the user to verify from their email. All right. So we're now going to insert into the user's database the username, the email, the verified, the token, the password because we now have no errors in the validation. All right. So all that information will be logged into the database. Okay. Right. Okay. Okay, once the data has been entered into the table, into the database, we can log the user in. So we use this if statements. Log them in, and then we'll now take the data from the tables and place them in the session. So we need to start a session here. So we need to have the session start here. Session start. Okay, so we're now taking all these are now available in our session and are available to every one of our pages. Okay. Indenting it. Okay, what's happened here? Okay. Let's try and get this indenting right. We'll work it out. Okay. Now start sending our flash messages out. Set flash messages. Okay. We're talking about these flash messages. These are the messages that will be shown here. And whoops, it may not work. In our login page and these are the flash messages here. Okay. So we'll worry about that once we get our pages written. So, set our flash pages. Okay. Oops, silly man. Okay. So if we don't log in, we come to this else statement here. Okay. So that's we're pretty much done with our, oops, what's happening there? It's not right. let's have a look at that. Well, okay, everything looks right so far. Let's try and straighten up everything so everything looks okay. Let's get some indenting. Cool. That's pretty much our what's his name? Done our sign up controls done. We need to go back to our DB PHP. Sorry, to the constants.php. This is incorrect. It should be localhost. You probably spotted that. DB users root. DB pass is nothing. User verification. Okay, let's really check our pages. So the login, just refresh that. It's okay. It shouldn't be on. Sign up. PHP. It looks okay. Okay, so that looks alright. Our index should be okay. Okay. Alright, let's now go back to our code. It's fine. Auth controller. Now, let's work on we've done the sign up stuff for the sign up. Let's now do the stuff for our login page. And it's very similar to what we have here. We have to do very similar, but we don't have to worry about the email. Or the password conf. So what I'll do is just simply copy it bit by bit. So very, very similar to the stuff that we're already doing. We've already done here. So from the login, we're just going to post the username and the password. All right. And check that the username is not empty and that the password is not empty. And if we find no errors, okay, we find that the errors are exactly equal to 0, then we can connect to the database. We can log into the database. So we'll do the select statement. Don't worry about all this. Okay, it'll just check that the email is okay. All right, and validate the email if it's the email is a duplicate. We'll send out errors, very similar to what we did in the login page. So let's worry about that. So if so at this point, if the user is not empty and the password actually passes, then the logon is successful. Okay. Okay, we can say that the login is successful, and then we're going to pass session variables so that we can use them in the session. And that means that we can use the username in the session, their email, which is coming from the database, and also we can pass these flash messages. Remember, we've got them on the front at the moment. Let me have a look at the index.php. So they're static at the moment. We're going to change that so that they're non-static, so that they're actually coming from our PHP session, which is cool as. All right. Else. Okay. If you can't log in, then we're going to send out errors. Login fail. Okay. Cool. So hopefully that's our auth controller completed. Sorry, let's have a look at that so you can see all that data there. Let's get that out of the way. Give you some time to work that all out. So you can stop it anyway. Okay. Just gonna. Okay, at this stage, I'll go to the sign up page, and remember we have the static here. I'm going to change that so that we can test for all the tests. Empty password, empty email, and so forth. Okay, so I'm just going to copy some code in there for you. Just bear with me. Just going to replace this code here. Okay, let's make this a little bit tidier. Oops. Oops. Where is it? Okay, let's go in. All right. So I want to copy, write that all up. And I do the same inside the login script. Replace the same thing. Go to the login script and replace this here. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Okay, guys, let's go to our auth controller. Notice a typo here. Password. You guys probably noticed it already. Sort that out, eh? Okay. Now let's see if we can register our first person and check all the validation. Okay, let's try admin. Try that without a password. Okay, email address is invalid. Password is required. Let's try something without. See what happened there. Okay, now that's coming from the front end validation. Okay. There we go. That's because we've got email as the type in our page. All right. Set up. Let's see that all our flash messages are working. Passwords do not match. Okay. Which is make them match. Sign up. Cool. Now we've still got those here. Messages coming up. Let's see what's happening there, right? Okay, now let's go to our index page. We need to do some work in our index page. Okay, we need to, at the moment we've got this happening here, this div here, and it's putting in the alert success, you are logged in now. It's also got this here and also got this message here. So those are they're static at the moment. So what we're going to do is make them dynamic using PHP. So I'm just going to copy some stuff in real quick. Okay, I'm going to copy stuff just to replace this particular div. Okay, what this PHP does is has a look in the session for any message. Remember we created some sessions and it looks for these messages. So the messages that it's looking for are these messages here. Okay, these session messages. Remember we started the session here. So now we're passing these messages into the session. All right. So they're now in our session. And if we go to the signup.php, we should be, index.php. Those messages should be coming through here. However, we've got a little bit of stuff to do. We need to add some PHP at the top of this page. Okay. So we need to add our controller in here. Okay. Oops. Okay. We need to also check to see if we're logged in. We can tell if we're logged in by checking to see if there is an ID in a session. We could check the username is in the session, but we'll just check to see if the ID is in the session, because we passed the ID into the session. In the auth controller here, right down the bottom here, we pass the ID into the session here. All right, so it's there. So if we're logged on, then the ID is in the session. So we can go to our index.php. Got some errors in here, have we? Oh, yep, there we go. Let's see what we have here. Okay. Oh, of course, I haven't added the brace here. Okay, so that should be good. So we check, see if the session ID in. If it is, then we're logged on. Okay, that's cool. Then we can pass the session messages back and forth. Cool. So it's going to look through our errors array, and no, this is not errors. It's going to pick up these messages from the session. Sorry. Okay, and it will be welcome. Put the PHP in there. Welcome the username. Okay, which I'll copy it now. So it'll be welcome username. Okay, and then finally we'll do some if statements here to so if it's the count is verified, then we'll print this out. But if it's not, we'll print this out. So we'll put an if statement in here. It puts if statement in here, PHP, if verified, then print this out. Okay. So if the session variable verified is there, if it's not verified, sorry, if not verified, then print you need to verify your account, and then this button one here is the reverse. If it is verified, okay. So if the session is verified, then have this button instead. Okay. So at the moment, when we click the log out, we're going nowhere. So where we want to go is to the index.php, because we okay. Hopefully you've got that all. So the last thing we want to do, I missed in the auth controller, is to log out the user. So add this right to the bottom of our auth controller. So if set will log out, we'll destroy the session, we'll take reset, unset all the session variables, and return ourselves to the login form. Alright, so you can't get to the home page unless you log in. Okay, I think that's about us all finished, which is cool. So let's verify that everything appears to be working okay. Let's start with we already have a user in our database, a single user is the admin user. That's the admin user. Admin database is that token, that 100 length token. Here is the password. It's a 255 length password, and that's encrypted. Cool. All right. Let's log in with we've logged in with admin. That's cool. We're not verified at the moment. we can verify ourselves manually to start. So by changing this verified token to 1, so let's edit our table. So let's show you So that's the ID. We want to change this verified to 1. Let's go back to the home page. Okay, let's just log out, log back in again, but this time let's log in with the email. See if that works. Oops. Oh, you need to save this before that works. So let's log out again, log back in again. Good, shows us that we're verified. Just validate, do that again. Change that back to 0. Save it. Log out, log in again. Cool, it's working fine. Let's try someone we don't know. Log in, we'll make sure that all the messaging is okay, the messages, so log in. Username and password are required. Username is, let's try someone, John. Let's try John. Okay, log in. Wrong credentials, so we have to have someone that's already logged in. So if I can't get in, let's try our sign up here. Let's check. Yep, all the messages are working. Username. Let's try John. John at extra.net. Okay, let's try it without a. There you go, let's try and sign up like that. Okay, so there's validation there. Email address is invalid, good. .net, put a password in. It's working fine. Let's check that he's been created. Cool. Here's our second user being created. Everything appears to be fine. These messages are working too. Sounds good. Okay, I might center that just for a last thing to do on our site and then be done with it. Let's go to, where's that? It's the index page. Here we go, H3, let's go. Class, change the class equal to text dash center. Oops. Okay, let's have a look at that now. Okay, it's all nice and centered. Let's log out, log back in again. Cool. All done. Okay, thanks guys for watching, and let's see how you go. If you need any help, just let me know. Thank you. Bye-bye.